Every Tour de France stage win deserves celebration, especially when it's your first and France is your native country. 24-year-old Lilian Calmejane overcoming cramps at the 3-mile mark, showing lots of mental and physical toughness, enjoying the spoils of victory. He also won the polka dot jersey as the King of the Mountains today. That's your stage winner. How about the overall leader, Chris Froome, cooling down after a tough ride himself? He will stay in yellow. He is the overall leader once again. Thanks for coming back with us, Paul Burmeister, Bob Roll, and also Christian Vandevelde. Tough day for all the riders. Describe what Lilian Calmejane did to win.
The thing he did that is the hallmark of great cyclists is resist. Having the ability, the wherewithal, the mental toughness as his body was disintegrating to resist the riders that were chasing him to the finish line. We're going to be seeing a lot of Lilian Calmejane in the future. That's a great ride in this year's Tour de France.
What happened on that last climb, guys?
It was absolute chaos. Nicolas Roche lighting it up. He was in the second group. He bridged up to the front group. He went past the front group, dropping most of the riders from the early morning. But this is the emphatic and race-winning attack that no one could follow by Lilian Calmejane, and he would ride that momentum all the way to the finish. And these are the riders he had to overcome. Robert Geesink, a great climber. Serge Pauwels, Nico Roche. Calmejane streaking to the line in spite of his body cramping up, in spite of fans getting in his way, getting in his head, but kept looking back because Geesink was never that much more than 10, 11, 12, 15 seconds behind him the entire last climb. And to have the wherewithal, the patience, the maturity to not panic, stay within himself in spite of his body cramping in the finishing straightaway almost. At this point he's thinking, I'm going to win. Then all of a sudden, it looked like he was absolutely glued to the road and couldn't go any further. And somehow he found the ability to overcome that and regain his momentum, stretching out a little bit.
Christian, how bad is that? How bad is that when that happens?
It's hard to put into words how horrible that is, and especially if you put into the situation where Lilian's in, where he's 4 kilometers from the finish line, first win of his career at the Tour de France, and you think that you can't pedal another pedal stroke, and you come so far. But I mean, yeah, of course, the pain is something, but more the emotional pain and struggle that you're trying to just overcome that, like Bob said earlier. And then that shows a lot, though. Not to panic, relax a little bit. You still have 40 seconds in your pocket over a charging Robert Geesink. He obviously made it, though, with plenty of time to spare. Great victory salute, as you'd always want to come across the line. If you had all of the dreams come true since you're 10 years old, think about what you're going to do when you come across the line for your first win at the Tour de France. That would be it. And especially the stage today, Paul. I mean, come on. They went from the gun, flat out. 4.5 hours of racing, tons of climbing. There was never one time where you could truly relax. Most of the peloton remember this stage for many, many years.
Lilian Calmejane, lots of hugs from his team and then smiles to the crowd. As we mentioned right at the top, he's from France, making the victory all the more sweet. We will continue to enjoy his effort today, his winning effort. The Stage 8 results, it looked for a while, especially, Bob, at that 3-mile mark, that Geesink was going to have a good chance to catch him, but just not enough to get to the front.
Calmejane regained his composure, got to the line in front of Geesink, who is a tremendous professional. Now, this is the field, 50 seconds behind. Fabio Aru right up there, Rafael Majka up there. Nate Brown!
How about that?
Nate Dogg, ninth from
26 in one day.
I was going to casually mention Nate Brown. It's better when Bob sees it for the first time and reacts that way. 50 seconds back, a popular number. Richie Porte there, perhaps Chris Froome's top challenger here. That's what he did, and Chris Froome also 50 seconds back. And we've seen Calmejane celebrate a number of ways, and here he is atop the stage, winning podium for the first time in his career.
Christian, you said that the field, especially this man, will be remembering this stage for a long time. I think tomorrow morning they'll have their first chance to really remember it when we approach the hardest stage in the Tour de France. We'll see if Lilian Calmejane has anything left for tomorrow. It wouldn't be surprising to me if he lost a big chunk of time tomorrow, but it will all be worth it because of this win today.
That's so true, especially you think in years past when you have the first big mountain stage, usually the day before, everyone takes it pretty gingerly. And that was not the case today.
Before the race, guys, we talked about one of the main questions heading in. Would it be an opportunity for the GC contenders to put some time into Chris Froome? And as we take a look at the winner, Lilian Calmejane, shaking hands, enjoying the win, Bob, what do you see in the yellow jersey standings as Chris Froome found a way to stay up top?
Team Sky was fantastic. In the finale, they had put 2 guys in the breakaway, so they came back to join the 2 guys that were Chris Froome, including the second place, Geraint Thomas. And they just gave Chris Froome a great support all the way to the finish line. Across the top, there were a number of attacks from the field. We only got momentary glimpses of those, but Team Sky was absolutely phenomenal on today's very difficult stage for the entire peloton.
As we take a look at what's going on with the yellow jersey standings, Bob, how big of a win was stage 8 for Team Sky to keep that exact same 12-second lead?
Well, it's very impressive. You know, I mean, it was almost to the point where they were getting vulnerable. They just had 2 guys left with Chris Froome, but because they're so clever and they know exactly what to do 1 mile to the next, nobody could challenge them.
Dan Martin finished 11 behind Hessing in 13th place. Here he is with Steve Schlanger.
Dan, as you cool off, how did you decide to launch your move when you did?
Well, just opportunity, you know. I found myself a little bit further back and then, yeah, just had momentum, so I thought, why not? I mean, I knew it was tailwind and a little bit downhill, and yeah, and then the CV motorbike helps a lot, so why not get behind it?
What did you think you could accomplish?
Well, who knows? Who knows, you know. I knew there was a group in front as well, and they don't want us to go to the finish for a result, but yeah, I was pretty sure they were going to chase, but yeah, why not?
What's it like to try and chase down your cousin?
Oh, different jersey, isn't it? You know, but yeah, I didn't even know who was. I didn't know where he was in the race. I said to Richie with 10k to go, is Nico up for the stage? Because I didn't have a clue what was going on in front. But yeah, it's a brutal day, which is what we expected. But wow, we rode like so fast all day, you know.
Any concern with making an effort like that, knowing tomorrow's an even tougher day?
Oh, everybody did the same effort, you know. It was kind of like all I did was a little sprint.
Steve bringing up his cousin Nicholas Roche, who came in 4th place. Your read on what Dan Martin did at the end today?
Well, Dan has never lacked confidence. That's one thing. That's really just the feather in his cap at all times. But Dan's looking fantastic. He was my pick, actually, for today. He's probably the fastest out of all the climbers and all the GC guys. So whenever Dan sees an opportunity, he doesn't think, he just does it. And that makes Dan very special. He was up there in the front, and knowing Dan as long as I've known him, I knew he was going to do something like this. And there he goes. He just sees himself. He had the momentum, like you said. He sees the opportunity, just goes. He doesn't think twice about things, and that's what makes Dan a bike racer. He's not being overly analytical about thinking about the watts and how many calories he needs to preserve for tomorrow's race. He just lets it rip.
And look at the change in tempo. I mean, they're going pretty close to flat out. Sergio Henao on the front, a very rolling terrain before the finish line. Dan Martin didn't quite have a difficult enough course before the line to get real daylight, and they really had to chase him. So,
but look how fast he went across to that group. I mean, that is so impressive.
So quickly. But that made the peloton chase a lot harder. He starts the day 4th in the overall standings, so he gets swept up before the line. Kreuziger coming in there. That was Nate Brown in the green jersey. There's Chris Froome coming across. Good try, and we'll see if that doesn't have any repercussions tomorrow on the Tour de France's hardest stage, and not just for Dan Martin, but for everybody in this year's edition.
Let's go back to where we began. That's with the winner of Stage 8, Lilian Calmejane. I mentioned that not only did he win the stage, his first ever stage win, also the King of the Mountains today.
Handy souvenir from a great stage win. A day, maybe no more than that in the polka dots. Tomorrow's stage, massive mountain climbs and tons of KOM points on the race course tomorrow, and that, I would imagine, will change hands once again, the polka dot jersey.
Yeah, only 1 point lead over Fabio Aru right now.
Aru won on the Planche de Belfi. That was a Category 1, got 10 points for that, and Calmejane had 1 point. previously in the stage, so he gets the jersey for a day. That's my prediction. Somebody else will have it tomorrow.
Yellow jersey, another day for Chris Froome coming. He'll be in it tomorrow for the 48th time in his Tour de France career. This is not a repeat from yesterday, the day before, the day before. Chris Froome right now in yellow. We talked about it a little bit a few moments ago. A close call for Team Sky in the second half of the race, going off the road a little bit.
That's Mikhail Kwiatkowski going way too fast for his teammates through that corner. Geraint Thomas, the first one of Sky to go off the road. He tipped over, but Chris Froome, even though he went off the road, did not fall down, was able to regain contact with the field rather quickly. Geraint Thomas got back in the front also, but a really nerve-wracking moment. And if you're the director of Team Sky, that is an absolute panic attack. And there's G. Thomas, very calm. I think it might be, Christian, correct me if I'm wrong, the calmest person in the entire professional peloton. Nothing ruffles his feathers, caught right back up to the peloton, and did a tremendous amount of work for Froome in the finale.
Yeah, that's the first time I really saw that good of a picture. It looked like he had bottles on his back and on his stomach, so he might have been coming back from the team car with his hands full, trying to give bottles back to his teammates.
Good looking shot of the Jura Mountain. Stage 8 took place right here. Let's see what Chris Froome had to say afterward.
Chris, that was extremely intense from kilometer 0 all the way to the finish. Were you expecting that?
Honestly, no, not quite as intense as it was today. That was a really tough day, especially with tomorrow in mind. Yeah, that was really quite selective. I think my teammates were fantastic today. They, from start to finish, were in control of the race, and I mean the pressure was on. We had a lot of guys up front who were up there on GC and were a real threat. So yeah, team really had to sort of pull out all the stops today, and the guys were fantastic.
Yeah, what did you talk about this morning during a team briefing? The goal was to control the situation and have as many of your teammates at the front of the pack?
Yeah, I mean, it was tactically quite an interesting stage. I mean, we went with the plan of putting Sergio and Mikel Landa in the break, seeing as they're also up there on GC. But at the same time, there was Matthias Frank up there. At one stage, there was Latour also up there. Also threats on GC, so it was a difficult one. Even though we had two guys in the break, we couldn't really give them too much room. So tough day in the end.
And tomorrow, the big one, the stage that many considers maybe the hardest of the Tour de France. It's going to be a fantastic battle.
I think so, especially after today. I think tomorrow is going to be a really decisive stage of this year's Tour. And we could see, I think, certainly from the main GC guys, I think those gaps are going to open right up tomorrow.
A stage that can be decided going uphill and downhill.
Certainly. The descent down to Chambéry after Monchat is tricky, to say the least. So, yeah, I think all in all, we're going to see a very aggressive day of racing tomorrow.